3 keys for improving indoor air quality with UV light. Brent Peckover is Director of Industrial Applications with Christie Digital, and he'll deliver this presentation. Brent, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Amy. Just waiting for the computer to move forward here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to be talking about 3 keys to improving indoor air quality with UV light. So we all know the importance of indoor air quality, especially with winter approaching, the return to work, whether you're in an office setting, a retail setting, an entertainment setting, we spend a lot of time indoors, right? So this is very, very important. And anything we can do to improve indoor air is very key. Indoor air stagnates, especially in older buildings where there's poor ventilation or no ventilation. And even in newer buildings, because we have such high energy efficiency, they're very tightly enclosed envelopes. So we have to be very cognizant of indoor air quality in those regards. So, how do we improve indoor air quality in shared spaces? Well, UV light is a great example of that. Specifically, you want to make sure that you're looking for disinfection technology that will provide at least 99.9% disinfection. It's important to understand that different manufacturers will quote different amounts of disinfection. In Canada and indeed in the States as well, we see instances where people will claim above 99.9. In Canada, that translates into a completely different jurisdiction. So a lot of people will limit their claims to 99.9. So that doesn't mean that it doesn't do more. It just means that that's where they've chosen to play in the market. So we talk about UV disinfection in occupied spaces. Well, many people are familiar with UV disinfection. Disinfecting operating rooms as an example. What happens is that the people leave the operating room or the patient room, they wheel in a UV disinfection fixture, it blasts the room with UV, and then they wheel it out and the people return to the space. Well, in most spaces that we use on a day-to-day basis as a society, that doesn't work. We can't afford to empty the space in order to clean it. And in most cases, we want to be constantly cleaning the space anyway, because of course, if you empty the space, clean it, and then the first infected person walks in, well, guess what? Now that space isn't clean anymore. So we want to have technologies that can be used while people are in the space to constantly be knocking down pathogens that are being introduced into the space. So this is where upper room UVGI comes in. This is disinfection above everybody's head. Okay, so we're taking UV light, we're shining it across the upper portion of the room above everyone's head, so it's safe for use in the room. And we also have full room disinfection using far UVC light. So this is filtered 222 nanometer light that's projecting down into the room, that's disinfecting air and surfaces. So our second key takeaway is that we want to be disinfecting spaces while they're in use. This is really, really important. And best ways to do that, upper room UVC and filter far UVC for full room disinfection. So we often talk about water quality. We think of in our societies, water is always safe to drink, and that's a great thing. But why don't we have those same standards when it comes to air quality? Why is it we aren't working to reduce pathogens in the air? And that's something that we need to pay a lot of attention to. We do deserve to have clean air, whether it's in restaurants, classrooms, meeting spaces, work environments. We want to improve indoor air quality to reduce those pathogens. So this is where having enhanced airborne disinfection is really key. And that's really what full room and upper room allow you to provide, because you're disinfecting large portions of the air all at once, as opposed to smaller portions with some of the other systems that you may be familiar with. So we have a UR10 disinfection fixture that was launched, I guess about 2 weeks ago now. It actually incorporates both upper room and full room disinfection. So I'm not sure if you can see my video or not. Is it possible to switch to the other video? So yes, so this is our UR10 device, okay? It mounts onto the ceiling like this, and we have full room disinfection that comes out of the bottom out of a filtered Care 222 lamp, okay? We also have upper room disinfection that comes out of the side that shines horizontally across the room, basically turning the entire ceiling into a disinfection space. Sorry, can we go back to the presentation? So we do have a short video that provides a little bit better depiction on how this actually works. If you want to go ahead and play the video. All right, so typical applications are going to be anywhere people gather. So we're talking meeting rooms for corporate, we're talking classrooms for education, medical waiting rooms, these types of places is where this is ideally suited for. And in many cases, we could have one unit that can disinfect an entire room depending on the size of the room. One of the unique advantages of the UR10 is that it actually has integrated light. So it has two white light LED strips that are on either side of the full room disinfection lamp. And in many cases, we can have customers who just replace existing light fixtures and they just wire it in, remove their existing fixture, wire it in, and now that fixture provides both light for the room as well as disinfection for the room, which greatly simplifies things. It uses a tablet for control, which opens up all sorts of possibilities. It is Wi-Fi as well as Ethernet enabled, so it can be integrated to your building management system or any number of other systems that are available. Let's talk a little bit about safety for a minute. Safety is really, really important. Christie is a very large company. We've been around for a very long time, and we're very risk averse. We're owned by a Japanese company, so there is a great interest in making sure that we're here for. We've been in business for almost 100 years. We want to be in business for another 100 years. So taking care of our customers and making sure that it's safe to use is very, very important. So the UR10 has both UL and CE certifications in the US as well as for use around the world. And we expect to have CARB certification by early 2023. We do have a convenient calculator. So if you have a standard square or rectangular room, you can use our website calculator. Just go to christiedigital.com/UV, and that will direct you to the calculator. You put in the dimensions of your room, and it will give you an idea of how many units you're likely to need. So with the ongoing return to work, the increase in global population, the ongoing increase in global travel, we see more and more pathogens coming in. In fact, we did one analysis since the year 2000. We've seen an average of a pandemic every 4 years, which is scary since COVID started approximately 4 years ago. So cold and flu virus season and the next pandemic, sadly, are probably right around the corner. So we need these types of technologies, and this is really important, right? We want to disinfect our space. We want to disinfect our space while people are in the space and using the space, and airborne disinfection is very, very key to success because that is the majority of viruses and bacteria that are easily communicated between people. So, all right. So are there questions? Back to you, Amy.
Thanks, Brent. Yes, we do have a few questions coming in. Just a
Okay.
reminder to type those in the Q&A button at the bottom. For the counteract in the conference room setting, would it disinfect under tables or behind screens, or is it limited to line of sight?
UV light only disinfects where it can be reached. So no, the gum underneath the table, it will not disinfect the gum underneath the table. But that doesn't mean that, when you're putting your pens and touching the top of the table, that's really where we tend to be focused. So
Perfect. We have another question. Does the counteract upper room FAR UV model meet the UL 2998 ozone standard?
so we're actually doing carb testing right now to verify ozone compliance. We have another unit that predated this one, which actually had two Care 222 lamps in it, and that is the primary ozone generator. And we passed the carb standard previously, so we fully expect that from an ozone perspective, we will be 100% carb compliant with this unit, because we will be half of the previous performance. So, and that was acceptable.
Wonderful. Another question is, they see that the ceiling's recommendations 9 to 15 feet. Can you not install on a ceiling height lower than that?
Because it is upper room and we're turning the upper portion of the room to a UV disinfection zone, we don't recommend install lower than that. The product is actually certified down to 8 feet, but we really do recommend 9 feet and above. I'm a tall person and I can put my hand up, and the last thing we want to do is have anybody in a position where there could be some risk associated with it. So
Perfect. Brent, for individuals that are worried, or tenants or occupants that are worried about UV in terms of safety, what's your recommendation on how to respond to that?
sure. So our product is UL and CE certified. One of those, basically there are 3 components to that. So there's an electrical safety component. So think of your kettle, right? It's safe to touch. Nobody's going to get electrocuted. It won't start a fire. There's a photobiological component, which is that exposure component, right? It's not going to hurt your eyes. It's not going to hurt your skin when it's properly installed and properly used. And that's one of the reasons why we do recommend that people have a professional install it. And the third one is control safety. So that means that we have the capability to control the device, and we want to make sure that should something happen, a failure results in the device, that the device doesn't become unsafe. And that's one of the things that really separates Christie from many of the other products in the market, where we have said, you know what, safety is paramount. We want to go above and beyond and make sure that no matter what happens, the people in the room will be safe, right? So as much as could you envision a scenario where something could happen that could cause a problem? Well, just like using a lawnmower, yes, if used in a way that would be unsafe, it would become unsafe. But from day-to-day use and regular operation, there should be no reason for any concern.
Perfect. Can you talk a little bit about the maintenance side of these units? How long do the lamps last? Any kind of preventative or maintenance needed on them?
Sure. So there's no fan or anything in it. So that means that it is perfectly silent, which is great in many environments. So if we talk about lamp replacement cycle, if we said over a 5-year period, you would need to replace the UV LEDs once in a 5-year period, so at 2.5 years. And that would be the only thing that you would need to take care of. Other than that, the unit is very robust, so there are no consumables in the device, which is nice.
Perfect.
And sorry, could I add one more thing? That 2.5, replacing the UV lamps at 2.5 years, that's assuming you're running it 11 hours a day.
Perfect.
So if you're running it less than 11 hours, that would extend. If you're running it more than 11 hours a day, that would result in a slightly shorter replacement cycle.
Someone's asking if you're aware of any peer-reviewed or published studies on some of the real-world applications of FAR UV in either schools, offices, daycares.
So it's interesting. We actually just finished some laboratory testing where one of the things that I'm a big fan of is saying, you know what, I'm not interested in these misleading specs that are often claimed. I want to create environments where we can actually do real world testing. And this is where saying, okay, you know what, we don't want to just stick this in a tiny little glass box and measure things that are perhaps less relevant. We want to put this into a full room and say, you know what, let's inject pathogen into the room and make it airborne and see whether or not, and track whether or not how the device performs in that particular case. And we were very excited. In fact, the lab that we were using came back and said, wow, you know, we've tested a lot of devices and we've never actually seen one that works this well, which is fantastic, right? Because we very much are focused on performance. And this is something that is very important to us. You know, I'm an engineer. I care more about performance than it looking good. That's what everybody else worries about, is making it look good. I want to make sure that it does what it says it does. So yeah, so in testing, we want to make sure that we're mirroring those real world environments so that we have a confidence that it will work in the spaces where we're suggesting it be installed.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Brent. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience?
I'm very excited that we are able to start deploying this technology and very interested to see how it changes our world. So thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you.